One of the interesting, and I'll say cool things about my job, in addition to getting tons of birthday cards, and even at this point, I think I've gotten a bat mitzvah card and stuff like that. Outside of that is working with people who are in the public eye. And I say that not because it's some weird groupie or celebrity crush kind of thing. I couldn't be less interested in how famous someone is. But one of the things that brings me comfort is when I know that there are people who want to grow their family, who for whatever reason, their public image makes it more difficult for them to avail themselves privately of assisted reproductive technologies like surrogacy and egg donation. I enjoy being able to help those people walk through the process, maintain their privacy and confidentiality, and come out on the other side better for it, and parents. And one of the extra cool things is when some of those types of clients become public or go public with their stories. Now, Gabrielle Union and Dwyane Wade are two of those types of individuals. They were not my clients. I represented, though, their surrogate in their surrogacy journey. And they've just been two champions of assisted reproduction by sharing their story with the public and helping dispel some of the myths and some of the stigma around what it's like to go through a surrogacy journey, and really normalizing getting help for fertility challenges. So we've been doing a reaction series to their story in general, and I've been able to piece together some pieces of their story from different sources. By the way, my name is Corlandos Scott, and I am a surrogacy attorney in Los Angeles, which kind of explains why I'm talking about surrogacy. And I guess the Los Angeles part is just related because there are lots of people there who do things that put them in the public eye. Yeah, so proximity maybe? I don't know. But I love helping people, regardless of their status, publicly grow their family through assisted reproductive technologies like surrogacy. And in this episode, we're going to continue following Gabrielle and Dwyane's story around surrogacy. Let's dive back in.
Also understanding how to even have the conversation in a respectful, reasonable way.
So that's what I'm looking for from the two of you, because there's so much ignorance around it. And it's just like any other situation where people are going through loss or experienced a tragedy. Sometimes people just don't know what to say.
Yeah.
What is the proper or appropriate and inappropriate thing to say to people who are going through IVF?
Oh, IVF? Mm-hmm. How are you doing? Then you let that person tell you what they want to tell you.
So is it anybody's business whether it's your egg or his sperm or the...
No.
So that is not a proper thing to be...
Not on the table.
Not on the table.
If they want to offer that, because every couple is different. Some
Yeah.
couples will tell you everything. And I'm like, that's a lot of information. But that's their journey. And they want to be fully transparent. A lot of people have suffered losses that you cannot imagine. So how they got to their surrogacy journey or their IVF journey or their IUI journey or their Clomid journey even is really personal. So it's best to say, how are you doing? Is there anything I can do for you? Is there any information that you want me to know? If I'm looking to go into to do an IVF cycle, is there something that, is there information that I need to have to ask my doctor?
So basically you all got to surrogacy because you had said, babe, enough already.
So this is so key. I mean, even though I speak with people daily who are dealing with infertility, overcoming infertility challenges, and addressing their fertility issues, it's still something that I have to be very mindful about when we're having casual conversation, or even when I'm advising them professionally, to just recognize the weight of what it is they're going through. Regardless of whether you have also been through it, you have to understand that everybody processes things differently. And I love what Gabrielle said about simply asking, how are they doing? And letting them know, maybe, I would add to that, that you're a safe space to share anything with. And let them decide how much, if anything, they want to share with you. I think that's key. I mean, I even took away something from that because, just leaving it open like that allows the other person to to decide what they want to disclose. And I cracked up a little bit because of her facial expressions when she said, that's off the table. No, you shouldn't be asking anyone who's gone through the surrogacy process, or even anyone who's pregnant and carrying their own pregnancy, well, whose eggs were used to create your pregnancy, or whose sperm, or is that really Dwyane's genetic child, or is that really that's off the table. It does not matter. And if you've seen any of my videos, I'm a firm advocate of the fact that you're still the parent. The intention is for you to become the parent, regardless of whether you use donor eggs or your eggs, or donor sperm or your sperm. And yes, like Gabrielle said, it's nobody's business but yours and your spouse or partner, if you're going through this with a spouse or partner. If you've gone through an IVF cycle or any kind of fertility treatment, even if that's assisted reproduction, let me know in the comments below your advice for how someone should have a conversation around infertility with a friend or a relative or loved one who may be in the middle of that process. I'd really love your feedback, because I'm always looking to be as tactful as I can with my clients and with friends and family members. Believe it or not, fun fact, even with my friends and family who may be on their own particular fertility journey, I very rarely bring up what I do. I very rarely go into speaking with them about their fertility journey, simply because I know how private it is. And so I'm always looking for tactful and very respectful ways to approach them, because clearly, I do this on a daily basis, so I am a huge resource for anyone who's a friend or family member to me with a fertility journey issue. But I still, again, am very hesitant, because I always want to remain respectful. So let me know your best tip for how to have a conversation around fertility issues. Let me know in the comment below. There's so much to Gabrielle and Dwyane's story that I'm actually going to push this over into a part 4. But before we leave this episode, I want to go back to a point she made about the privacy issue and the fact that it was nobody's business whose eggs they were and whose embryos and whose sperm and egg went into creating the embryo, rather. There's also the issue of just privacy in general. And if you're a public figure, if you're a celebrity, if you're a known individual, privacy is one of the things that is hardest to come by for you. I know, I've talked to a number of my clients and even friends of mine who are in the public eye, and they say it's shiny and glamorous until you get it and you realize just how crippling and how binding it can be to not be able to have a meal or go out or just enjoy yourself with your family the way any other person would without being harassed. And then you have to always be tactful about how you're responding to certain harassment, or then you look like a villain and, nobody is feeling sorry for you because, of course, you're successful in your chosen field. So privacy is at a premium. And so I want to cover something about celebrities in a surrogacy arrangement. And one of the things that I always like to cover with clients of mine who are celebrities, or I like to make sure we address if I'm representing the surrogate of a set of hopeful parents who are celebrities or public figures, is a plan of action around their privacy and how we're going to maintain that privacy, number one, and number two, how will we react, I should say, if the information goes public. And this is so vitally important. And I've had issues ranging from, well, we're just going to, maintain confidentiality between the two parties, and we're going to make sure that no one talks about it. Well, that's standard in every surrogacy arrangement. So it's not necessarily an ironclad, airtight way to handle it if you're a public figure, because of course there are a number of people involved in your arrangement. For instance, most times when I'm working with a celebrity client, I'm also interfacing with their personal attorney, one of their managers, maybe an assistant. And so there are more than one party or more than one groups of individuals involved in communications. Although this is not ideal, it just comes with the territory. When you're in the public eye and you're busy and you have achieved a certain level of success in your chosen field, you often need a team around you just to stay playing at that high level. So it's part of the process, but it also opens up the possibility of there being leaks of information. So what I like to do is to have a very clear and even documented process for how we're going to maintain confidentiality and privacy. For instance, one of the cases that I worked on with a celebrity couple, there was actually a contingency plan in place for, number one, security for the surrogate, because the last thing you want is for the woman who's holding the thing that's most precious to you to be harassed by paparazzi, to be followed around, to be tailed in her car and risk, getting into an accident or something like that. So we wanted to have a plan in place around if she was harassed by photographers and people from the media. The other thing that we wanted to have in place was even a plan around her delivery. So we wanted things in place like putting her in a hotel that was away from her home, days before the expected due date or the delivery date. We also wanted to make sure that the vehicles that she was seen in prior were not the same vehicles that she took to the hospital, and that if there were vehicles in place that she was used to being seen, being driven in or driving herself, that those vehicles were somewhere else. And so it would kind of be a decoy, so to speak. But the fact remains, every situation is different, and we'll have a different plan for every situation, but have a plan. There also needs to be things in place for what happens when you get the call from TMZ or you get the call from somewhere else saying, hey, we heard about this story. What can you tell us? You need to know what your attorney is allowed to say, how they should react, and if they're able and willing and savvy enough to begin to issue cease and desist requests, to issue takedown requests if there's anything put up in the media or online about your client or even your surrogate, those kind of things. So make sure you have a plan in place. Unfortunately, for people in the public eye, it's not as straightforward a process as someone who isn't a public figure who's going through surrogacy. But if you're a celebrity, you already know that. Nothing in your life is as easy as it is for other people. And that's part of the price that you pay for the success that you've been so amazing to garner over the course of your career. So I'll end the video by saying, if you're looking to go through surrogacy and you are in the public eye, reach out to me. Let's talk about your journey. But at the very least, whoever you're working with to go through your journey, make sure you have these things in place prior to starting the process, because the last thing you want to do is start the process and then realize that you didn't have safety protocols in place. If you want to chat with me, you can click the link in the description below and go straight to chatwithcorlandos.com, and we'll start a private chat between yourself and myself, and we can also transfer that into a phone call or a meeting or whatever you need, and we can chat about where you are in your journey and what might be the next best step in getting you to parenthood or to growing your family. See you in the next episode, where we'll pick up part 4 of Gabrielle and Dwyane's story.